Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're zooming in on a really specific part of the medical device industry.
Yeah, we're looking at the global market for Urodynamics equipment disposables.
Exactly. Based on a 2025 market report. Now, urodynamics, basically, it's about how the bladder and urethra work, storing and releasing urine.
And the disposables bit, that's the single-use stuff they use in the tests.
Yeah.
Catheters, tubing, that kind of thing.
Right. So our goal here, our mission, if you like, is to pull out the key numbers and predictions from this report.
Give you a clear picture, basically. A shortcut to understanding what's happening now and what's coming next in this area.
It's a pretty significant trend in healthcare, even if it sounds niche.
Absolutely. And the report we're using, it's pretty comprehensive. Market size, growth rates, regional stuff, different product segments. It's all in there.
Okay, let's dive in then. What's the big picture number, the global market size for 2025?
So for 2025, we're looking at USD 480.0 million.
$2.48 billion? That's substantial.
And it's definitely growing. The projection for 2033 is USD 834.98 million.
Wow, okay, nearly $4 billion. What kind of growth rate gets us there?
Well, the report calculates a compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of 5.60% for that period, 2025 to 2033.
5.6%. That's pretty healthy, consistent growth.
It is, and it's not happening in a vacuum. The report mentions favorable reimbursement policies.
Ah, right. So insurance and healthcare systems are actually covering these tests and the equipment more readily.
Exactly. And when that happens, more tests get done, so demand for these disposables naturally goes up. It makes access easier for patients.
Makes sense. So where is this market concentrated? Let's look at the regions.
Okay, yeah, the geographical breakdown is really interesting. North America is the big one currently.
How big?
In 2025, it's USD 917.60 million. That's over 40% of the global total.
Okay, dominant share. But what about growth there?
The CAGR for North America is projected at 4.4% between 2025 and 2033. So, solid, but maybe not the fastest globally.
And within North America, the U.S. must be huge.
Oh, yeah. The U.S. market is USD 723.99 million, growing at 4.2%.
But you said North America's overall growth was 4.4%.
Right, because Canada is actually growing faster within the region. It's smaller.
Right.
USD 110.11 million, but its CAGR is 5.2%.
Interesting. So Canada's punching above its weight in terms of growth rate, and Mexico...
The Mexico's at USD 83.5 million with a 4.9% CAGR, but also pretty strong growth.
Okay. So North America leads in size, Canada leads in growth speed within the region. What about Europe?
Europe's the second biggest market. In 2025, it's valued at USD 719.20 million. That's over 30% of the global revenue.
And their growth?
The overall CDR for Europe is projected at 4.7%. Pretty close to North America's rate.
But I imagine there's variation within Europe, too.
Yeah. And Germany is the largest market in Europe, USD 142.4 million, growing at 4.9%. Also solid.
What about other key countries? France, Italy?
France is at USD 66.17 million, but a lower CAGR, 3.9%. Italy's USD 61.85 million, growing at 4.1%.
Right. Okay. And Russia, Spain.
Russia's actually quite large, USD 111.48 million, but growing slower at 3.7%. Spain is USD 58.97 million, 3.8% CAGR.
Any others that stand out?
Well, you got Sweden at 4.8%, Denmark at 4.5%, even Luxembourg showing a 5.0% CAGR, though on smaller bases, obviously.
Right. And the rest of Europe combined?
That counts for about USD 100.69 million, but the growth there is projected lower, around 3.4%. So yeah, quite a mixed bag in Europe.
Okay, now you mentioned things get really interesting somewhere else.
Yes. Asia Pacific, APAC.
What are their numbers?
Their 2025 market size is USD 595.20 million. So that's about 23% of the global market. Still smaller than North America or Europe. But their projected CAGR is 8.4% from 2025 to 2033.
Wow, 8.4%. That's significantly higher than North America or Europe.
Exactly. It's the fastest growing region by quite a margin. Really points towards, increased healthcare spending, better access over there, maybe growing awareness too.
Let's break that down within APAC. China must be a huge factor.
It is. China's market is USD 249.98 million in 2025 with a 7.9% CAGR. Very strong.
Okay, still below the regional average, though. Where's the really fast growth coming from?
India. India really jumps out. Its 2025 market size is USD 59.52 million, so smaller than China or Japan.
But the growth?
The projected CAGR for India is 10.3%.
10%? That's incredible expansion.
It really is. Likely a mix of factors, demographics, more investment in healthcare infrastructure, rising middle class maybe.
What about other established markets like Japan or South Korea?
They're growing well too. Japan's at USD 82.14 million with a 6.9% CAGR, and South Korea's USD 71.42 million, growing at 7.5%.
And smaller markets, Singapore, Taiwan.
Also showing impressive growth. Singapore's CGR is 8.7%, Taiwan 8.2%, and Southeast Asia as a block is projected at 9.2%.
So across the board, APAC is just booming in this sector. That's a major takeaway.
Absolutely. It signals a real potential shift in the global market landscape over the next decade.
Okay, let's quickly cover the other regions. South America.
South America holds about 5% of the global revenue, USD 94.24 million in 2025. Their projected CAGR is 5.9%.
So growing faster than North America or Europe, but not as fast as APAC.
Right. Brazil dominates there, as you might expect. USD 40.33 million market size, growing at 6.5%.
And other countries, Argentina.
Argentina shows strong growth too, 6.8% CGR on a USD 15.83 million base. Colombia, Peru, Chile are all in the 5.7% to 6.2% CGR range.
Okay, solid growth across the key South American markets. What about the Middle East?
Middle East is around 2% of the global market, USD 99.2 million in 2025. Their growth is projected at 6.1% CAGR.
Also pretty good growth then, key players there.
Saudi Arabia is the largest market, USD 34.92 million, growing at 6.4%. The UAE is significant too, USD 20.44 million, 6.6% growth. Turkey also shows strong growth at 6.7%.
The report mentioned Qatar having influence.
Yeah, it notes Qatar, despite being smaller at USD 7.94 million, seems to control or influence the market dynamics there. That's an interesting detail.
Definitely. And finally, Africa.
Africa holds the smallest share, about 1%, with a 2025 market size of USD 54.56 million.
And the growth outlook?
Much lower. The projected CAGR is only 1.9%.
That's quite a contrast to APAC or even the Middle East.
Yeah, South Africa has the largest share within Africa, USD 19.21 million, growing at 2.8%. Nigeria is next at USD 4.36 million, 2.1% growth. The rest of Africa category showed only 1.1% growth.
So that slower growth probably reflects ongoing challenges with healthcare infrastructure and access across much of the continent.
That seems likely. Though even slow growth on a large population base can mean something over time.
Okay, so that regional picture is really clear now. North America leading, but APAC catching up fast due to that explosive growth. Now let's shift gears a bit. What about the products themselves? Which types are most dominant?
Well, the report says uroflowmetry equipment currently holds a major share.
Uroflowmetry, that's the test measuring urine flow rate, right? Relatively simple.
Exactly. It's often a first step in diagnosing urinary problems, so it's widely used. And the report links its demand to increasing lower urinary tract symptoms, LUTS.
Okay, so that's the established leader. What's growing fastest?
That would be the ambulatory urodynamics system.
Ambulatory meaning portable, like patients can wear them outside the clinic.
Precisely. There's a big demand for patient-friendly solutions, things that allow monitoring during normal daily activities, real-time monitoring.
And tech advancements must play a role there. Wireless tech.
Absolutely. Wireless technology is key to making these ambulatory systems practical and effective. It's a big trend.
And other product types mentioned.
Yeah, it also lists cystometers, electromyographs, EMGs, video urodynamic systems, and then just the general category of urodynamics disposables, which covers things like the catheters and lines used with all these systems.
Right. So a move towards portability and real-world monitoring seems to be a key trend on the product side.
Definitely. It offers more convenience and potentially more accurate data reflecting real-life conditions.
Now, who's actually using all this equipment? The end users.
Unsurprisingly, hospitals have the largest share right now.
Makes sense. High volume of procedures, the facilities, the specialists are all there.
Exactly. But, similar to the product trend, the fastest growing end-user segment is ambulatory surgery centers, or ASCs.
So outpatient settings. Why the shift there?
It seems to be driven by a preference for outpatient procedures, generally often more cost-effective, more convenient for patients. Plus, the rise of minimally invasive techniques fits well with the ASC model.
So people are getting these tests done outside of the main hospital more often.
That seems to be the trend. The report also mentions specialty clinics as another end-user category.
Okay, so we're seeing shifts in both what technology is being used and where it's being used. Let's talk drivers. What's pushing this whole market forward?
Well, a big one is just the rising demand for disposable medical products generally. Hygiene concerns are a major factor, especially in recent years.
People just prefer single use for safety and infection control.
Pretty much. Then there's increased healthcare investment overall, especially in advanced medical devices. More money is flowing into this kind of tech.
And better facilities, too.
Right. Growing healthcare infrastructure, improved medical facilities, particularly in some of those faster-growing regions we talked about, means more places can actually perform these urodynamics tests.
Okay, those are the tailwinds. What about the headwinds, the restraints?
The flip side of the infrastructure point is that limited healthcare infrastructure in certain regions definitely holds back growth. Africa is probably the clearest example there.
Makes sense. You can't use the equipment if you don't have the clinics or trained staff.
Exactly. And another restraint mentioned is concerns around the disposal of medical waste. All these disposables create waste, and managing that environmentally is a growing concern that can impact adoption.
Yeah, the sustainability angle is becoming more important across healthcare.
It is. So finding solutions for that will be important for long-term growth.
What about ongoing trends shaping the market?
One key trend is simply growing awareness about urinary health. People are more informed, more likely to seek help and early diagnosis if they have issues.
Which naturally leads to more testing.
Right. And alongside that, there's increasing investment in R&D. Companies are constantly working on developing newer, better, perhaps more user-friendly urodynamic solutions.
So it's a cycle.
Yeah.
Awareness drives demand, which drives innovation.
Pretty much.
Okay, let's touch on the companies involved, the competitive landscape.
The report describes it as having both big global players and more regional ones, all focused on innovation and quality as you'd expect.
Any specific examples or recent news?
Yeah, actually, it highlights a funding round for a company called Bright Euro. In October 2024, they secured $32 million.
32 million. That's significant funding. Who invested?
Labory Medical Technologies was the lead investor, and the funding is apparently to support the launch of their new Gleany Urodynamics system in 2025.
Glean Urodynamics system.
Okay. Yeah, and also for expanding manufacturing and more R&D. It just shows there's still a lot of activity and investment happening in this space.
Good concrete example of the dynamism. Who are some of the other established players mentioned?
The report lists names like Albin Medical SL, Boston Scientific Corporation, Medtronic Pelvic.
Big names there.
Yeah, definitely. Also Libori, which we just mentioned as an investor, and Verathon Inc., among others.
Okay, so a mix of established giants and innovators getting significant backing.
Seems that way.
All right, let's try to wrap this up. To summarize this deep dive into the 2025 Urodynamics Disposables Market Report, what are the absolute key takeaways?
Well, first, it's a sizable market, around $2.5 billion now, and it's set for pretty significant growth, heading towards nearly $4 billion by 2033.
Driven by that steady 5.6% global KGR.
Right. Second, the regional picture is crucial. North America leads now, but Asia-Pacific, especially India and Southeast Asia, is growing much, much faster. That's a major shift to watch.
Yeah, that 8.4% APAC KGR is the big number there.
Third, on the product side, while standard uroflowmetry is dominant now, the real momentum is with ambulatory wearable systems.
Reflecting that broader trend towards portable, patient-friendly tech.
And fourth, related to that, we're seeing a shift in where tests happen, with ambulatory surgery centers growing fastest as an end-user segment alongside traditional hospitals.
Driven by cost, convenience, and technology.
Exactly. And all underpinned by drivers like hygiene concerns, overall healthcare investment, and growing awareness.
So it's a niche, maybe, but a dynamic and growing one, clearly influenced by bigger healthcare trends.
Definitely. Less invasive procedures, outpatient care, early diagnosis, it all feeds into this market's growth.
Okay, here's a final thought for you, our listener, to chew on. We've seen the high growth in APAC and the rise of ambulatory systems in this specific market. How might these trends ripple outwards? Could they reshape not just urology care, but maybe investment strategies across the whole medical device landscape?
Yeah, and maybe ask yourself, what other specialized medical markets, the ones that don't always grab headlines, might be seeing similar under-the-radar growth right now, with potentially big implications for the future of healthcare? Something to think about.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.